You're right, Lewis. How you doing?
Breathing.
Breathing.
Is a good sign.
That is a good sign. It's good to see that you're breathing. How have you been this year?
This year?
This whole year, 2020?
I'm pretty sure everyone's had a dodgy year this year, so I don't think I've got any right to complain about how my year's been, because I'm pretty sure there's been billions of people who have had a worse year than me. So
fair enough. Yeah. How are you doing right now? Is everything ticking well?
I'm actually in a really shit mood today. I don't know why, but I've been for the past few days. But no, overall, I'm breathing, so that's good.
Do you want to talk about why you're in a shit mood?
Oh, just loads of little things, nothing like particular. Just loads of little things that just make me upset.
Is there things that just pile up?
Yeah, that's mostly what gets me when I've got like, because you know me, I'm an anxious mess. So when it's like loads, when there's like one or two bad things, I'm alright. But when it's like loads of little things, I just go insane because I can't deal with it, because I struggle to.
And would you say attributing things which are small things, is it just lifestyle things? Is it relationships, as in friendships, or is it?
Oh, a bit of everything. Like one thing can bother me and stay in the back of my mind forever. But I'm just overcritical in everything. My anxiety is like normalised. So anything that's like financial, any friendships, any family, anything career-wise, just anything like that. Just I think more than probably the average person does. Just overthink it massively, which throws me off a lot.
Okay. Well, obviously you're in a bit of a shit mood, but or you have been. Kind of what I want to touch on. I'm
happy now because I'm with you.
Oh, baby, that's so cute. What I want to touch on, I guess, is just to ask you about maybe a particular moment when you might have found that you were at a low point.
Which one do you want? Let me get on my book.
Take any choice you want, whatever you feel like you'd like to share. If you do, don't feel obliged.
This sounds so brutal, but I can't pick one because I've had loads that are just awfully similar. Like I've had so many low points, but it's the same thing over and over again. I've never had any like standout ones from the rest, which is probably quite sad that I've got so many that are just the exact same. Any particular ones? Do you mean as in to do with me? Like, for example, the whole start of my mental health going downhill is I've always been an anxious person. I've always been an anxious mess. Always, ever since high school. Because you know when you're you're like the first years, you're like going in and there's all the big scary people. I don't know why I was always on edge, always just really anxious. I don't know why. So I feel like that's when my anxiety started. I used to get anxious just walking to school. I don't know why. I have no idea why. But I used to just get anxious doing anything. I was such an anxious mess at the start of high school, and then so I've always been anxious. I don't even know if that's. I've never had anything that I feel like. Actually, speaking of it, that was during the time we talked about the dreaded Skype webcam stories. It was probably during that time, so maybe that was also something that contributed to my anxiety. But ever since I can remember 10, 11, 12, I've been an anxious mess. But only really depression kicked in. Like I love school. I always liked school, not the actual school aspect, but the whole social aspect. And then just when I got into the last year of high school, which we call 6th year, so that's when you're 17, 18 for any English viewers. I don't know. I was about to say I don't know why. My friend died, which was a bit of it was just a bit mental, and I just really. I just took everything out of me, kinda, because it was coming up to exams. It was like 2 months before the exams, so obviously you've got all them stress of like your last, what you would say A-level exams. It's my hires in Scotland, so I was coming to that, which is very stressful. Then I found out my friend died, and then I don't know. I feel like it just sucked everything out of me, and ever since then I just felt like I became depressed myself, and it was even because of like how he died. It's more just the person he was, and I just thought it was such a shame because he was a person I really, really appreciated, and it was just very off guard type thing. And I feel like that's when my whole mental health just started plummeting down from there. So then I couldn't stay on for the last year of school because I was so depressed. Even my mum could tell that I was feeling really down, so I just couldn't stay on the last year of school because I was so just down about everything. I wasn't in the mood. I had never skipped school in my life, ever. And then after that whole news, I don't think there's some days I'd turn up to school, go to 1 or 2 classes and just go home and just sleep. Like at 9, 10 a.m. I would just go home and just sleep. I couldn't be bothered for the rest of the day. And then I'd probably skipped class like 10 or 20 times and just went home, which I'd never done before that. So then, yeah, I was like, Mum, I just have to leave school, get a job, and that's what I did. But no, that's really when you're saying a particular moment where I felt my lowest, so this is my lowest point, but that was definitely the stand-up moment to when everything just went downhill in regards. And like what I'm saying, in terms of lowest points, I've had so many similar experiences, but that was definitely why it started going downhill. Like that was the point where everything started going downhill mentally, I'd say.
I feel like for you as well, because of our past, I feel like it's something that we've actually managed to speak about quite a lot. I don't seem to get the whole closed off energy from you. I do feel like if you wanted to talk about something, you would, but sometimes I feel like you don't as well at the same time. Like you talk about what might be the issue there in front of you, but there's probably more to it than what you let on.
Okay, so I love speaking about mental health in terms of like, hopefully, I'd like to think you and Cam would be able to be like, oh yeah, whereas in like, if I can tell someone else is having a bad day, I like to speak to them about it, just because I've had so much. I don't want to say I'm pretty educated, but since I've had so, like, not educated like mental health, but like I've had so many issues, I feel like I can help someone because I've probably experienced something they've experienced. So I like speaking about it to other people, but when it comes to me, I'm like, I don't know.
Why do you think that might be, mate?
Because it sounds like so just like cliche, and it feels like everyone says it. I just don't want to push my problems onto someone else. I just feel like that's something I need to deal with, and I know the answer to it. I just need to do it in my own time. I like to try not, like, I feel like the more I talk about it, the more I get remembered by it, so it makes me feel worse. So I feel like the less I talk about it, the easier it is to kind of like forget. I think that's really the only reason why I don't necessarily like talking about it so much.
Do you feel like when you do talk about it, it does help?
Depends on what it is, of course. Like I've had so much issues, sometimes I'm like, that made me feel worse, or I'm like, oh, that made me feel miles better. When it comes to the anxiety side of things, when it comes to overthinking, that always helps. But when it comes to when I'm feeling low, I never really feel much different afterwards, which is kind of sad. Like when I open up about it, I never feel better afterwards. But anxiety-wise, definitely speaking to someone can just be like, calm me down a lot.
In regards to support bubbles, do you feel like sometimes when you look at who you have around you, do you ever feel like you might be alone? Do you ever feel like you can actually,
no,
you don't feel
never.
that?
I'd never like to, the amount of people I meet and then they tell me the stories they've had and I'm like, whoa. Like when I first started getting mental health issues, like 17, 18, I definitely thought like, why is no one else having shit like this? I definitely thought it was just me. And then as I got, only because my friend group, none of them had ever, if my friends had been that, but all my friends never had any issues like that. When I was like 17, 18 anyways, I felt like I was, and I could probably say half of them have now, but back then I was definitely the only person that had like them kind of mental problems. So I definitely thought I was alone now, but no, I feel like it'd be very narcissistic for me to think that it's just me now, because I know how many people go through shit like this every single day. Worse. Like that's the way I used to always word it. I used to always be like, I'm feeling bad, but I know, not in a bad way, but I'd be like, I know someone else is going through worse, so try, like, I'd remind myself of that.
I think that's a good thing to do, but it shouldn't negate away from the fact that sometimes everyone's personal battles are their own personal battles.
Yeah, of course.
Just because, like, I always believe that there's always someone better, there's always someone worse.
So and just subjective as well.
Exactly.
Like something that might not seem big to you might be big to someone else, and vice versa.
So you might be having a really bad day because you made a bad macaroni cheese. And I remember you literally telling me about this before. You said sometimes I get it really right and sometimes I get it really wrong. And you literally looking at your macaroni cheese like it had assaulted you or something. Like you weren't happy. I could tell it was getting you in a bad mood. But for me, I just look at it like it's a bloody mac and cheese. But then that clearly like bothered you a little bit. It wouldn't ruin your whole day.
No, it doesn't.
But it's just sometimes
it's more. That's more when a day is going wrong, and then I'm like, that's going wrong. Even my mac and cheese is going wrong. Like what else can go wrong?
Exactly. But I think you should know as well that when you look at everything and it is subjective. Just because you have a day where you might be feeling at your lowest, you should know that you can talk about those things.
Yeah.
But everyone has their own. Healing processes and their way of processing emotion, and no way is right, but some ways are more helpful. There is a right way, but the right way is only for you, you know. There's no right way to do it objectively, which is where I kind of want to ask you, where do you seem to find yourself building bad habits when you're in more of a bad place? So if you're in a bad mood like today, for example, if that continues like beyond today, do you ever find yourself doing things which don't make things better for you? What are your bad habits?
Sleeping.
Oversleeping?
Yeah, 100%. That's like that ruins my day off from the get-go. If I've woke up late, I'm like, day ruins. I'm shit.
Same as me.
Fucking, I've not got a good work. Like that just automatically starts my day off to a bad one. Whereas if I wake up early, it starts my day off to a good one. But I never wake up early, so 99% of the time, that is definitely what like makes me just feel 100% worse. And it's not me being lazy, being like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm like, I feel quite happy here, which I don't normally feel, so I'm going to stay here.
For sure.
So yeah, that's the main reason. That's definitely a bad habit that I have.
And how do you, if that's a bad habit, I don't know if there's any more, you can revisit that in a second, think about it. How do you snap out of bad habits to get yourself moving forwards?
I don't.
You don't?
I've been trying, like I've genuinely reached out to people and being like, look, this kind of, like for example, I know this seems so pathetic to think about, but like just as generally getting out of bed, I've like reached out to people and be like, mate, I know this sounds like stupid, but do you actually have any tips for getting out of bed? Some people have been like, yeah, leave your curtains open, leave your phone downstairs, see if you physically have to get out of bed. They give me so much advice, but just nothing really seems to work. And I know that's just like a little thing, but that's definitely what can ruin my day from like the get-go.
I think those are all tips which can get you out of bed, but for me, what gets me out of bed is motivation.
So what was really good, and this is why lockdown was so annoying for me, is this was such a good thing. I knew I was oversleeping, I knew I was sleeping in, and I knew it was bad for me. So what I did was I was like, I'm going to go to the gym 9 a.m. every single day. And I know you're thinking, oh, you're still going to sleep in. But what I would do is I'd get one of my friends to meet me there, who is a morning person, to meet me there at 9 a.m. So if I know that I have to meet someone, I'll get out of bed. Like if it's on my own terms, I won't get out of bed.
Yeah, because you're not letting anyone else down.
Yeah, if I've got a commitment, I don't want to let someone else down. So it was my cousin. Every time I was saying to my cousin, let's meet 9 a.m. tomorrow, 9 a.m. tomorrow. And it was so good for me because I'd have to get out of bed because I don't want to let him down. I wouldn't just be like, I'm not the type of person who'd just be like, nah, I'm not coming in, and just like leave them when they're already there. So that was a really good thing for me before lockdown. It was getting me out of bed. And I finally got it nailed. And then obviously when lockdown happened, I was like, gym, no, can't do that anymore.
So do you feel like sometimes some different types of outlets, like for me it's music and sport, that help me move forwards? You said to yourself it's gym. Is there anything else that helps you?
Gym and sport, like even when we play football every week, that's just it's a good thing where you can just forget about everything for however long and just focus on literally what's there. Like you won't be thinking about anything else, and that's really good. Games, I love playing games, you know I do. Like just playing games and getting like heavily involved in like a story game or just a little multiplayer game, just you're concentrating, so you're just forgetting everything, distracting yourself. So yeah, games, sport, gym for me, definitely. I wouldn't say there's much else. Music makes me feel worse, unlike you, because you've heard some of the stuff I listen to.
Yeah, for sure.
Brings me down, doesn't lift me up.
Yeah, I hear that. I guess what I kind of want to approach on this is that we kind of spoke about how you would say that you'd be at like so many low points. What is it that reminds you, like now in this position where you're at right now, that it's something that you can't let yourself slip away from? Like there's one or two ways that you can let your mind overcome you. Yeah, either goes down very badly or you get over it. You know. So how do you approach it if someone would be watching you? If someone's watching you, and what advice would you say, even to talk to your younger self or to talk to a member of the audience or someone who watches you? What would you do to try and lift yourself up to be like, you know what, this is how I'm going to get myself from a low point?
Whenever so not necessarily speaking to a younger self, but when one of my friends come to me and they're like, the number one thing I always say is find a hobby. Find something to be obsessed and addicted to that isn't drugs or alcohol. Yeah, that's something I'd probably tell younger me. Find something to be addicted. It's actually from Trainspotting. You know Trainspotting, the film? It's about heroin addicts, and there's a good line from it. It's called, it's cringe, but I like it. It's called, be addicted, just be addicted to something good. So be addicted, I've got a really addictive personality in anything.
Me too.
So hence when I mix with bad stuff, it's not going to go down well. So in terms of, that's the number one thing I tell people every single time. It's really hard for females more than guys because, like for example, like it's kind of, I don't want to say taboo, but like girls are more scared to step out their comfort zone than guys are. Like guys have got so much to do, whereas girls, like in their bedrooms, are not going to have like games to play really. Which I tell girls, I say, get a PC, get games, or go to the gym, find a sport, just find something that you can be addicted to, put all your energy into. Because weirdly, it does make you happy when you've got a main focus and just something to strive for. It just makes you really happy. And so that's the number one thing I tell everyone: just find a hobby or something to get addicted to that's not drugs and alcohol.
So where do you find your happiness?
I'll let you know when I find it.
Come on, where do you find it? What makes you happy?
Animals make me happy. I like just anything that's just like, anything that just takes me away from like the real world makes me happy. That sounds like still like, anything that takes me away. Just anything that
so
like
quirky.
takes, yeah, the world's evil. No, just anything that takes me away from problems, like animals. They're just so innocent, and just stuff like that just makes me so happy. Same with like what I was saying about games. Just going on holiday somewhere just where I can forget about everything. That's probably what makes me happy. Just peace and quiet, and just being able to chill out. I like just not being stressed, because stress doesn't make me happy either.
Do you find that with obviously living with myself and Cam, do you feel like
awful for my mental health?
Oh, God, awful, dreadful. Do you ever find that if you could or wanted to talk about something, you could?
Of course I could. Yeah, of course. But I'm one of these people that also doesn't like to talk about it, purely because, let's say you're at work or you're at a party, when someone's in a bad mood, it ruins everyone else. When someone's in a shocking mood, like especially like family dinners and that, when someone's in a bad mood, it ruins it for everyone else. So I don't want to like I'm really good at putting a mask on and just pretending, not that I'm happy, but just that I'm normal. Like if I'm having a really bad day, I'm good at putting a mask on because I don't want that to.
I think you should listen to what I'm about to say then, because obviously this applies to everyone, but whatever it is, by adopting that attitude, I don't disagree with what you are saying when you say you're in a social environment and it's you've got someone in front of you and they're being really like, it brings the mood down. You're not wrong. That is the case. Yeah. However, by deciding to not talk to, I'm just going to talk on a selfish perspective because I can only talk for myself.
Yeah, of course.
By deciding or removing the option to talk to me, you've taken the power out of my court to be able to listen to something which you might feel like you want to say, just because you feel like what you have on your mind is just going to bring the energy down. Because I can say right now, outright, is that if I have a friend who is suffering or is going through a shit time, if I knew that they were going through a bad time but didn't want to talk to anyone or felt like they didn't want to bring me down with them, that would make me feel worse.
Yeah.
I would rather someone come to me with their problems and say, I feel shit because of X, Y, Z. And it's hard sometimes to remove yourself because we get busy. We're thinking about 1, 2, 3. We've got so many things going on. Like all three of us this week, we've got a lot going on. But if at any point in time there was just a moment and you were like, you know what, I actually kind of want to get something off my chest, I'd make time.
No, I get that.
I feel like you should know that and you should hear it. Like just because you feel like you're going to be a burden or what you're saying is going to bring the mood down, it wouldn't.
No, it's just something that I've always done, because I always feel like if I talk about my problems, I feel like I'm being dramatic. I feel like, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, how I was like, I know someone else has got it worse than me. I know that I'm not narcissistic enough to believe that I've got it the worst. I know people have got worse shit on. So I feel like when I'm talking about my problems, and then I look at my life, I look at my job, and I realise how lucky I am, I just feel like I'm being mega dramatic. So that's why I like to keep it to myself.
But you shouldn't feel like you're being dramatic about it though, because like we've already established in this conversation, pain is subjective.
Yeah, of course.
And your struggles, just because they might not be objectively as big as someone else's, subjectively they cause just as much pain as the next person's. Yeah.
See, I'm good at giving advice, but I'm not good at taking my own.
Yeah.
Awful at taking my own.
I feel like the people who are best at giving advice are the worst at taking it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I thought that was good.
Is that everything?
That's everything, mate.
Okay.
Cool.